Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial. Today, we're going to see what gauges are used for in KavaApp and how to use them properly. Gauges are clearly one of the strongest features of the app because they give you a clear, real-time view of your Kava. Thanks to them, you can see exactly how your bucket is emptying, whether everything is consistent, if a ladle is a bit too generous, or if there are differences between your servers. When everything is set up correctly, the app is very reliable. The only possible variations come from human actions, and even then, with a very small margin of error. The system is simple. Every item you sell is linked to a gauge. A ladle removes a small amount from the bucket, and a bottle removes a larger amount, depending on the volume you sell. Everything is updated automatically. You see your stock changing live, with no calculations, no paperwork, and no hassle. Now let's look at how a typical day works. To access the gauges, slide the right-hand menu and press and hold the icon with the coconut and the needle. You'll arrive on the Gauges screen. If this icon doesn't appear, simply go to the left-hand menu, open Settings, then Gauges, and create a gauge. In most cases, the gauge is already pre-configured, so you can move on directly. At the start of the day, you open the gauge and enter the actual volume present in your bucket. For this example, we'll enter 50 liters. This value becomes the reference for the day. If during the day you add more Kava, for example 30 additional liters, you use the gauge recharge function. You enter 30 liters and the app recalculates automatically. You can now see that the total goes up to 80 liters. At the end of the day, you close the gauge. Just below, on the same screen, you'll find the history showing the volumes consumed and your daily total volume. This information is also available in the statistics and can be sent by email if needed. For a Nakamal, this is essential data to track your activity. Now we move on to the most important part, setting up the items. Before even opening the app, it's crucial to measure your ladle correctly. Ideally, you should use a measuring cup. Fill a ladle with water as you would in real conditions, not filled to the brim, and check how many milliliters it represents. The more accurate this measurement is, the more accurate the gauge will be.
Now that the general operation of gauges is clear, we're going to move into the practical part with article configuration. To do that, we'll start directly with a simple item. On the sales screen, press and hold on the 100 Vatu shell to open its item sheet. This is where the most important step of the tutorial takes place. Once you are in the item sheet, the principle is always the same. There is a cross-calculation between three elements: the item price, the volume value, and the coefficient, which corresponds to the price per liter. If two of these values are correctly entered, the application automatically calculates the third. And most importantly, for the item to actually affect your stock, you must activate gauge management and link the item to the correct gauge, here, dry Kava. We are still on the 100 Vatu shell. In the Gauge Management section, activate Gauge Tracking, then select the Dry Kava gauge. Now enter the ladle volume in liters. For example, if your ladle holds 60 milliliters, enter 0.060 liters. Since the price is already set to 100 Vatu, the app automatically calculates the coefficient. Here, you will see a price per liter of approximately 1,666 Vatu. Validate and save. This item becomes your reference. It defines your base price per liter. Now exit this item sheet and move on to the 200 Vatu shell. On the sales screen, press and hold on the 200 Vatu item to open its sheet. Activate Gauge Management, select Dry Kava, and this time do not modify the volume. Enter directly the coefficient, meaning the price per liter you just defined, approximately 1,666 Vatu. As soon as the coefficient is entered, the application automatically calculates the corresponding volume. Save. At this point, it is very important to understand one thing. All your shells must be configured. The 50 Vatu shell, the 100, the 200, and any other amount you use. None must be forgotten. A single shell not linked to the gauge is enough to distort the results. This is a key point. Now let's look at the shell with a plus, meaning a free amount shell. This item is very useful to avoid creating many rarely used shells and to keep the sales screen clean. On the sales screen, press and hold on the Shell Plus item to open its sheet. Activate Gauge Management, select Dry Kava, then enter only the coefficient, again approximately 1,666 Vatu per liter. Here, you simply do not enter a price. At the time of sale, you will enter a free amount, and the application will automatically deduct the correct quantity from the gauge. Once again, this item must absolutely be linked to the gauge. We finish with the bottle example. Let's take a 1,500 Vatu bottle. On the sales screen, press and hold on the bottle to open its item sheet. Activate Gauge Management and select Dry Kava. Here, we decide that the bottle is sold at 1,500 Vatu per liter. Enter the coefficient as 1,500. In the Value field, instead of a small quantity like for a ladle, enter 1 liter. Save. This example is important because the price per liter of bottles can be different from that of shells. Quick clarification. Here we use gauges in liters because we are talking about Kava. But a gauge is not limited to liters. The same principle also works with kilograms or grams. A gauge is simply a way to track a main stock using a consistent unit. Now that the shells and the bottle are correctly configured, let's make a few sales to check that everything works. Sell 1 ladle, then another, and look at the gauge. The current value goes down. Then sell a bottle, and once again, the gauge updates automatically. If the value decreases with each sale, everything is correctly set. Finally, keep this reflex in mind. If one day you add a new shell or a new bottle, always remember to link it to the gauge. A single forgotten item is enough to distort the gauge. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or issues, you can contact us via the left menu in the Contacts section. See you soon, and enjoy your Kava with KavaApp.